Hey everyone, and welcome.
Yeah.
It's our streaming weather show. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Stanonis.
Meteorologist Dan Russell. It's our first one ever.
Yeah, first one ever.
First one ever.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Yeah, I love it. Got a little
And of
coffee
course,
in here.
leading into the big holiday, Thanksgiving, we've been talking about the winter weather that we're going to be expecting and the potential travel impacts. So, again, a lot to talk about here. Not only are we going to be talking about that, we're going to be talking about some of the travel in the Northeast, even nationally, some of the weather we're going to be anticipating here over the next few days.
If you haven't heard, it's going to be snowing.
Yeah.
Some lake effect snow, too, and colder air.
Yeah, that pattern shift that we've been eyeing, we've been mentioning now for the past couple of weeks, mentioning it kind of arriving right around Thanksgiving, and here we are. Here comes that big pattern shift.
Yeah.
And all the issues that we'll have with it as we go through the next several days.
Thankfully, it doesn't look like a major lake effect event. It looks like more standard, normal that we would see, especially for this time of year.
Going back to last year,
Casadega.
Many even forgotten about that big Thanksgiving lake effect event that we saw.
Weekend.
Again, that was just last year, over 55 inches, whether it was Perrysburg, Casadega.
Right, more than 5.5 feet, really,
that's a big time snow amounts. Now in the city, we didn't see a whole lot. And I think ultimately how this kind of pattern is evolving, I think we're going to end up, now I don't think we're going to see those monster numbers there into ski country and areas of the southern tier. But once again, it looks to be primarily those kind of areas we'll see the biggest numbers. Right,
the highest terrain, southern Erie County into Chautauqua and Cattaraugus. Although we'll get clipped a little up here.
Oh yeah.
With snow. And that's what we're going to be also talking about over the next half hour you're with us. And then as you mentioned, Dan, going into what December is looking like as well, and then what the rest of winter is shaping up to be like. Yeah,
December, I just have a feeling, I don't want to say too much quite yet because it is coming up later.
Yeah.
But winter weather enthusiasts, I think, are going to be smiling.
Yeah.
when they hear about that.
It does look like that cold air really is going to kind of get locked in in December.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get right to it again. We're going to be talking about now locally what we're going to be expecting as we go through the next several days. And again, this lake effect event that we are going to be tracking. And when it comes to potential snow, again, it is going to be primarily into some of the higher elevations where we do expect those bigger numbers.
And mostly starting later Wednesday, like Wednesday evening into the night especially, and through Friday. So at least it is a longer period of time.
Yeah, we're talking 48 plus hours here for some of these numbers, which again makes it somewhat manageable, especially again here in the city, roughly about 2 to 5 inches. And I think a lot of that will actually occur during the middle of the night, tomorrow night.
Right, that's when the lake effect band first gets going, which it might actually start more of a wintry mix, and then it shifts for the most part south. And that's why we see those higher numbers, where it's going to just kind of sit for a little bit further south across that higher terrain, well south of Buffalo and into the southern tier.
The other issue that always compounds it when it comes to lake effect, the wind, and of course
the direction, how much moisture you have in place.
That's what's going to be causing some issues. It's going to be blowing it around, causing some reduced visibility. So again, but when it comes to lake effect, it's going to be all about location and timing. So we're really going to try to break this down hour by hour for you so you can know where it's going to be snowing, when it's going to be snowing, and how intense potentially that snow is going to be.
And heading into the Thanksgiving holiday, it's more, we're going to have the warm conditions, some of the rain, and then we're then going to have the gusty winds picking up. That changeover to snow as we head into Wednesday night and into Friday. That's really the time frame we're
very
really
changeable
looking
conditions
at in terms of reduced visibility, slick road conditions. And I mean, potentially, especially in the heaviest lake bands well south, really getting going. Looks like during Thursday into Thursday night, potentially near whiteout conditions at times. So when you have that blowing snow, also further gusty winds reducing visibility.
Oh yeah, those potentially 40 to 50 mile per hour winds are going to be blowing that around again into the higher elevations. So we're going to get right to it here with Future Look and again break it all down.
First. Exactly. So, Dan, I know we've been tracking this. We're going to be dealing with that rain for Tuesday night into Wednesday, but then we got that cold front.
Yep, here it is Wednesday afternoon. This is at 1:30. That's the actual cold front swinging through. Once it does, that's when the colder air will begin to drain in. And as it deepens, that's what's going to fire up that lake effect machine. And you can see it not only off of Lake Erie, but it's Lake Ontario, Lake Huron, Georgian Bay. Again, a true lake effect event. And as we get towards the end of the week, it does begin to kind of wind down a bit, especially by the time we get into Friday night, Saturday.
Yes, especially. And then Saturday, too. It's kind of like we're going to get a break before then maybe just a little wintry mix for the second half of the weekend for the long holiday weekend. But again, this is a closer shot at future look as we time out really that cold front that comes through, which really just starts to trigger the gusty winds and also that colder air then will be coming in, arriving by Wednesday night.
Wednesday morning, any travel plans there?
That's
I think
probably the best.
The best time frame. It's going to be warm. There might be a few spotty showers. And while it'll be a little bit on the breezy side, it's right here at 1 o'clock. Again, the arrival of that front. It's pretty much going to be a wall of wind with some of those showers. Notice we may actually see some breaks of sunshine throughout the afternoon, but those winds, that's when they're going to be howling. They're going to be rolling in off of Lake Erie. And as that cold air deepens, watch what happens to that lake effect machine as it just begins to get going here Wednesday evening.
And something we really have to watch is, how fast that rain changes over to snow, because at first it might actually start more of a wintry mix, which would lower the totals.
Anything sticking.
Yeah, north. So we're looking at that, and then how fast really this band shifts south too. So while things are coming together, there's still some uncertainties. So definitely continue to keep checking in. We're updating our website, WGRZ.com, constantly. We're going to be on the air too.
Oh yeah.
Talking about it and bringing you updates. But this is what it kind of is looking like, and some of the things we do know that are coming together. And so as we continue with Future Look, Dan, so this is what we're really looking at for as we progress through later Wednesday evening and into especially overnight, as you were saying. That's where we could see most of that accumulating
And that's
snow.
when it's going to be colder. It's going to be cold enough, especially during the middle of the overnight. And that's when I do think Buffalo is going to see the best chances for some snow. And again, here we are shortly around and after midnight. And again, I think that's when it's a big night for going out. There's going to be people out in the city at this time frame. That Thanksgiving Eve going out. And they're going to encounter this snow. Again, conditions are going to deteriorate right around that kind of midnight, shortly after time frame. As we get further into the overnight, though, here we are by 3 a.m. and you can begin to see that band beginning to shift to the south. And by 7 a.m. for Buffalo, for the most part, it will have cleared, but it's still, again, shifting through the south towns, ski country, and the southern tier. But again, this is by 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning.
Yeah, and so it looks like hopefully this band does shift south of Buffalo for the turkey trot, 9 a.m. start. So as of now, I mean, and as we continue to see this band shifting south and how things are coming together, does look like a better chance it will be south of Buffalo for the turkey trot.
And here we are.
Stay tuned.
10:30, during the race itself, and you can see most of the snow showers into areas like Arcade, Springville, Ellicottville, ski country, White Gold, and again, opening weekend, hopefully for the ski resorts, Jamestown picking up the heavy lake effect snow. And again, throughout the afternoon, here we are 2:30. Want to get that turkey bowl going in Buffalo, just deal with the cold and blustery conditions. And the lake effect, again, still impacting areas of the southern tier, but also we're beginning to see maybe some stray snow showers off of Ontario. Yeah.
So that's
for northern portions.
Right, so that's more later Thursday night into Friday. We could see then, because then that wind will shift and become now those lake effect bands west and east and even southeast of the lake. So that's why we can start tapping into some of that off of Lake Ontario. But it doesn't look like there is as much to work with off of Lake Ontario versus for conditions versus Lake Erie for lake effect snow.
Typically that northwest flow. So
don't get so much.
Thanksgiving itself, we're going to have more of a westerly and even northwest flow or west-northwest flow, and that's a little bit more conducive for some of those heavier lake effect bands. By Friday, though, it's almost a true northwest flow. And that really limits that distance across Lake Erie and Lake Ontario for that matter. So the intensity of the snow does look more manageable here on Friday. Right.
And I do have a closer shot. We're going to break it up by zones, our northern zone and then our southern zone, because as we know with lake effect snow, you got to do that to be able to forecast our microclimate. So as we look, you can see, again, what we're really going to be monitoring and focusing on is when we have that changeover from rain to snow and how long we do see more of that wintry mix of rain and snow to start as this lake effect band starts to get better developed, or even starting to get developed for Wednesday evening. So it looks like right now, at least the first part of the evening might just be doing like that wintry mix. And then we're going to be monitoring, since it will be northeast of Lake Erie, it will be impacting Buffalo and northward and inland too. So that's something we're going to be monitoring, especially into the overnight hours.
Even some of the north towns, so while we are talking quite a bit about the south town ski country and the southern tier, everyone is going to see at least some snow, and you can see that even here.
Yeah, and then you can see that it does drop.
There's that shift.
Pretty quickly. So it's really mostly overnight and even late evening Wednesday for the northern zone, and then it does continue to shift south. And then for areas south, that's really we're going to be monitoring then the rest of Thursday night and into Friday. that we're going to be seeing the accumulating lake effect snow.
Those squalls are going to be very changeable, you know, and then winding down again Friday evening, Friday night. So I think for travel plans locally into the weekend, while we are going to have some issues, Thanksgiving and Friday, again, conditions will be improving, especially by Friday evening, I believe, and into Saturday.
Right. And then we have some wind gusts we're going to be talking about coming up very soon.
More on that
this
right after the break.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Dan, it's always just awesome to work with you every day alongside you. And it's so great we get to launch this new streaming weather show.
Yeah, especially right here leading into the holiday.
Yeah.
And we got weather to talk about, of course, and, you know, and it does have an impact. So again, we're not only talking about the snow, we're not only talking about the cold, we're also talking about some big winds that are going to be developing. And I say it all the time, winds always compound the issue. And here we are looking at future wind gusts. We're starting off with your Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, again, I think is going to ultimately be some of the best time to do any kind of traveling. It'll be a little bit on the breezy side, but nothing too crazy. It's again right around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That's when that front will arrive. I stopped this at 3 o'clock, and in the wake of that front, now we have those gusty winds developing, and we're going to be seeing these winds gusting upwards of about 50 miles per hour. That is enough to even produce an isolated power outage or two, similar wind conditions to what we saw, say, a couple of weeks ago when we had some of those wind advisories in place. And once these winds do arrive, notice as we go through time, we don't see much change. Here we are Wednesday evening, 11 o'clock. And again, at that time, that's when we're beginning to see that lake effect snow band begin to get going here through Buffalo and across some of the north towns. And again, look at the winds gusting 45 to 50 miles per hour. And that's why, again, these winds will cause potentially whiteout conditions at times. And then heading into your Thursday morning, Thanksgiving morning, this is early in the day. Look at these winds. Again, for the turkey trotters, you're certainly going to be contending with these winds running down Delaware Ave. That's a mainly southerly track. That's a pretty good headwind that you're going to be running into. So make sure you're prepared for that. And of course, those winds will be adding an extra chill. And we only see those winds relax only a touch throughout your Thanksgiving day. So here we are, even Thanksgiving evening, we're still tracking these winds gusting upwards of around 50 miles per hour. And again, as we head towards Friday, still going to be on the breezy side, but at least begin to see some improvement here. Now we're seeing these winds back down in that, say, 30 mile per hour gust range, and we'll continue to see these winds relax throughout the day on Friday. And as we do head into the weekend, the one thing that I want to mention before we kind of advance here is with these winds crossing Lake Erie, we are anticipating potentially a pretty good SAICH event happening on Lake Erie. So what we're looking at here is water displacement. What you have when you get these strong winds that are flowing in one direction, it drives the water towards one end of the lake. Think of it like a glass or a bowl of milk, if you will, before you put any cereal in. If you blow on it, you can actually blow that milk towards the other end of the bowl. Well, Mother Nature does the exact same thing, but instead of a bowl of milk, we have Lake Erie filled with a bunch of water. And again, all that water is going to get driven towards the east end of the lake. And this is water displacement. This is just water rise, much like a storm surge, if you will. When you hear the tropics and you're talking about hurricanes and tropical systems, and potentially look at the red showing up. This is water displacement upwards of about 7 feet higher than where it's currently sitting. You throw 10 to 15 foot waves on top of that, and that's why we do have a lakeshore flood watch also in effect starting later tomorrow and into Thanksgiving. And again, it's a lot of your flood prone areas there along Route 5 there, Ethel Springs. You're probably going to get some pretty good road spray or some spray coming off the lake out over Route 5 there. And again, some of those flood prone areas. One little feature here towards the other end of the lake, of course, when you have water driven towards this end of the lake, what happens at the other end? Water levels actually drop. Kind of a little cool kind of scenario there where we actually see water levels drop even a couple of feet towards Toledo and towards Detroit. So yeah, the wind always compounds the issue. And as far as travel, not only here locally, we've been talking a lot about that, but I do want to talk about travel because I know many are going to be traveling some distance here as we do head into the holiday weekend. So as far as any kind of travel impacts, not only here locally, but throughout the Northeast and the Great Lakes. Again, here we are tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. No real travel issues here in western New York, but you can see with those winds already developing towards the western Great Lakes. And also here we'll have have some showers towards the east coast that could have some issues. Again, possibly some minor to moderate weather delays there. As we go through time, here we are tomorrow evening. Now we're beginning to see potentially some of those impacts with our weather here in western New York. Conditions improving with the one exception right along the coast here, whether it's towards Cape Cod, Rhode Island, Connecticut, could have some travel delays there. As we head into Thanksgiving morning, here we are at 7 a.m. Again, you can see some of the impacts all because of lake effects. So say you're traveling towards Cleveland. While in Buffalo on Thanksgiving, I'm not expecting too many travel delays, but if you have to travel that section of the 90, you will encounter potentially some moderate to even potentially major issues, especially if you do have to encounter some of the higher elevations. Also, if you're traveling the 90 as you get towards the Mohawk Valley in and around Utica and Rome, could have some snow trying to come in off of Lake Ontario. And of course, if you're traveling up 81 towards Watertown, we're also going to have some travel impacts there with some intense lake effect snow east of Lake Ontario. So you can kind of see that. Here we are Thanksgiving evening at 5 p.m. and some of those moderate to even major travel weather delays east of Lake Ontario and also east here of Lake Erie. And then even as we head into Friday, we're still tracking these lake effect kind of events here east of the lakes before this does begin to wind down, and we'll see these weather potential delays improve as we do head towards the weekend. So as far as travel hazards, I want to talk about the weather even into the weekend. So as we do take a look at this weather system as it does move in, again, the blue representing quite a bit of wind. So it's not only here locally dealing with that wind, but it's also going to have some issues, say in Chicago. That's going to cause, I think, some flight issues if you do have a connecting flight through Chicago tomorrow because of some of the wind that they're going to see there. For Thanksgiving itself, again, outside of the lake effect, much of the East Coast, the Mississippi Valley, really not looking too bad. And then as we head into Friday, again, we're still tracking the lake effect, but further into the weekend, here we are Saturday morning. Now we have another large weather system that's going to be moving in. And with this, you can see some of the snow here through the northern plains, the rain through the central part of the country. And this is during the day Saturday. We're quiet here along the East Coast in western New York, but this is the system that potentially, again, will cause some travel issues. Here we are Saturday evening. So if you have a connecting flight later on Saturday through Chicago or any of the hubs to the west, that certainly could cause some issues. And then here locally, I think we are looking at a little bit of a rain, kind of wet snow mixture as we do finish up the weekend. So Sunday could be a little bit of a messy day there. Now, after that, of course, we're heading into the month of December. We talked about this feature, the North Atlantic Oscillation, during our winter weather outlook. The one thing we are seeing, we do have a positive NAO that we've been leading into winter. When we have a positive NAO, that means we have stronger than average high and low pressures here out over the Atlantic. This prevents any blocking, and it actually produces a lot of warmth here in the east. What's happening now, though, is we have a negative NAO setting up, and with a negative NAO setting up, we have a big-time blocking pattern here setting up out over the ocean, and that's going to continue to allow a lot of cold air to move in, not only through the Great Lakes, but all throughout the eastern third of the country. Look at the temperature anomalies 8 to 14 days out. Again, these are below average temperatures that we are going to be tracking here as we do head into the month of December. So along with the colder weather, I think we're also going to have likely some better chances for some more winter weather, whether it's lake effect snow or what we call synoptic scale events. So I think those, again, winter weather enthusiasts for the month of December are going to be excited.
Right. And then as we look at the rest of winter, we're going to have a closer look at that coming up right after this break. And welcome back. We have our last about 5 minutes of the show here. And yeah, it's just time flies when you're having weather fun.
I could talk science with you, Jen, all day long.
It's just
good
every
stuff.
Day. Yeah, so now you're just recording it basically.
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So we talked about the cold, and that's obviously the cold air coming in, as you can see, for late week into even the weekend, producing also that gusty winds and some of that lake effect snow. And we did want to mention, because while we're going to have that front coming through, as we were talking about, for Wednesday afternoon, notice temperatures are going to be dropping pretty quickly, and also what it feels like outside too. I mean, we've been enjoying some 50s to start this week, but now we're going to be having wind chills, temperatures in the 30s, wind chills in the teens.
It's an abrupt shift too, so
including for the turkey trot.
Yes.
Thursday morning.
Yeah, so not only, as I was mentioning, you're going to have that headwind, it's going to be a very cold headwind that's going to be into your face.
Yes, and so we're going to also continue to deal with pretty much those wind chill values in the 20s, if not teens, even into Friday morning as well. So the gusty winds, the lake effect snow.
Yep.
It's going to be blustery. Definitely, it's going to be like, okay, December 1st is almost here, the meteorological start of winter.
Yep.
Which segues me to the rest of our forecast here when we are now looking at, okay, what does winter look like, and the rest of it as well. Well, when we are continuing to look at the winter outlook for this season, we do have to look at several things, and one main thing is that weak La Nina is developing. When we've looked at past weak La Ninas and building in very similar way, the two major seasons, winter seasons that stand out are the winter of 1971-72, which was colder than average, but above average snow of 109.9 inches. But also last winter, very similar, and we had milder than average temperatures and below average snow. So when you combine a lot of even what Dan was just talking about and a lot of different weather patterns, it shows that this winter will most likely be similar to last winter. We're going to have those cold surges, is what we're looking at even for later this week, with decent lake effect snow and accumulations, but then also warm surges with melting in between. So most of our season snowfall does look like, once again, it's going to be coming from lake effect snow, and especially for the first part of the season. And it does look like we're going to get a chunk of that for later on this week, especially for areas south. So when we're looking at that seasonal snow, this is what it's looking like. And so as we head into winter now, we are going to be looking at ski areas getting some decent snow, lower amounts as you head further north. And Dan's going to talk about Lake Ontario too, because we always just get a little bit additional right there near the Lake Ontario shoreline, Fort Orleans County. But the bulk of it is expected to be central and southern Erie County for those higher amounts, as we usually see with when you get most of the snow from lake effect snow versus more of that synoptic widespread snow systems. So we're still going to probably get some of those, but most of this is going to be from lake effect snow. All right, so we're always wondering what the ski season is going to be looking like. I know I am. I was taking my kids for their lessons and also just enjoying the hills. We got some great ski areas around here, and it looks like we'll get some decent snow for it. Even though, as we have seen in more recent years, the ski season does seem to shrink. It starts later and sooner, and even starts sometimes. Our first lesson in January has some rain, but it does look like we'll get some good weekends out of it. And also, potentially, for the long Thanksgiving weekend, we'll get some decent snow for at least the Ellicottville ski areas. Colden ski areas should also see some decent amounts of snow as well for this season. So that is some good news as we continue to look at these snow totals for this winter outlook and for what the rest of the season looks like. And like I said, Dan, we're probably going to get and I know you know, a decent, chunk of this at least.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but a chunk of this as we head into the long holiday Thanksgiving weekend.
And we've kind of already saw that a couple of weeks ago with some of the lake effect snow, especially across some of the higher elevations. So it's kind of already setting up that way.
And it was a little more of that wet snow and heavy wet snows, which is probably how this event is going to start. And it does look like initially it was going to be much colder air, but now not as much. So, but we're still going to get the lake effect snow, but it's probably going to be
the intensity won't be too crazy.
and also a little heavier, at least, especially to start while those temperatures are still coming down.
Oh yeah, winter, winter, winter.
Yeah, so a lot to keep track of, and also just continue to check up for updates, WGRZ.com, and we'll be following this all week long and into the long holiday weekend. And yeah, we'll be on social as well. So thanks for joining us. Dan, it's always a pleasure.
Always. Have a happy, safe Thanksgiving, everybody. Safe travels.
Exactly.